Imagine for a second that you are dangling literally hundreds of feet in the air.
Oh, wow.
Right. Your forearms are just burning, completely on fire. Your fingers are gripping this tiny, maybe 1 millimeter ledge of granite.
Terrifying.
It is. And the thing is, if you squeeze even a fraction of an ounce too hard, if you just apply a bit too much brute force,
Yeah.
a tiny, basically invisible band of tissue in your finger is going to snap like a bowstring.
And that's it.
Exactly. The moment that happens, I don't care how strong your muscles are, you are falling right off the wall.
Which is, frankly, my worst nightmare.
Right.
But it's such a perfect visualization, because what if I told you that that exact same biomechanical failure, the one happening on that sheer rock face, is basically happening inside your company right now?
Wait, like right now?
Right now. I mean, think about the star employee who just abruptly resigned out of nowhere.
Right.
Or, an entire department that completely missed a critical product launch. They didn't fail because they lacked drive or ambition.
They didn't just give up.
No, not at all. They failed because an organizational pulley snapped under load it was literally never designed to carry.
And that completely blew my mind, which is the core of what we are unpacking in today's deep dive. We are looking at this brilliant, genuinely paradigm-shifting presentation called De la paroi à la performance.
Which translates to from the wall to performance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this was developed by Dr. Christophe Delong and the team at Conexa Formation.
Yeah, an incredible team.
Really incredible. And they've basically taken the intense, high-stakes biomechanics of rock climbing and mapped them directly onto corporate survival, skill development, and employee burnout.
It completely flips the script, honestly, because we are so conditioned to look at corporate performance in a specific way.
Not the whole hustle culture thing?
Exactly. We believe success in a high-pressure environment is just about sheer willpower. Leaders tell their teams to grind harder, to push through the pain, just hustle more.
Drink more coffee, sleep less.
Right. But Dr. Delong and Conexa Formation, they present this stark biological reality. Sheer willpower, if you don't have structural support, is a recipe for catastrophic traumatic failure. I mean, success isn't about grinding. It's entirely about optimizing the transfer of load through a really meticulously developed structure.
Which really makes you step back and question that whole hustle myth. If we apply the biomechanics from these sources, is pushing an organization to simply work harder actually the fastest way to injure it?
According to the clinical and structural evidence they present, yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Pushing an unprepared system to work harder doesn't build capacity. It just accelerates the breakdown.
Okay, so to understand why a company actually fractures under the grind, we have to kind of zoom way in, right?
We do. We need to leave the macro idea of scaling a massive mountain and focus on the microanatomy of just a single hand gripping a piece of stone.
So let's start right there with this concept of prehension or grip, because I always assume that if you want to hold onto a tiny ledge, you just need monstrously strong hands.
Yeah, you just squeeze.
Right, you squeeze with everything you have.
And that is the instinct of literally every amateur climber. And frankly, it's the instinct of a lot of amateur managers too.
Oh, good point.
But if you just squeeze with raw muscle, you will exhaust your forearm in a matter of minutes. You're done.
Your arms get, what do they call it, pumped.
Exactly, pumped. The principle of grip in advanced biomechanics isn't about raw power at all. It is about precise placement.
Right.
It's about finding the exact angle and the exact friction point so that your skeletal structure takes the weight. That allows your muscles to just relax and conserve energy.
So if we translate that into a corporate environment, if a company is the climber, right, and the market challenge is the ledge, their grip is essentially their agility. It's their ability to apply the right specific skill to the right problem rather than just throwing brute force at it.
Think about what happens when a typical organization hits a major roadblock or, say, a sudden drop in revenue.
Everyone panics.
Right, panic. And the default reaction is almost always this massive display of brute force. Leadership demands that everyone work the weekend.
Oh, yeah. Mandatory overtime.
Exactly. They double the advertising budget overnight. They throw money, they throw hours, and they throw that panic at the problem.
They're squeezing the rock as hard as they can.
And they exhaust their resources instantly. The cash is gone, the team is burned out. What Conexa Formation argues is that instead of squeezing harder, the organization needs to adjust its grip.
Adjust the grip.
Yeah. It needs to rely on its internal anatomy to transfer that load efficiently. And they break this anatomy down into 3 deeply interconnected elements.
I really want to spend some time on this framework. because it completely changed how I look at team dynamics.
It's fascinating.
So let's start with the bones, which the presentation refers to as the charpente, or the foundational structure.
Framework, yeah.
In a business context, these are the core fundamental skills of the company. We are talking about basic project management, interpersonal communication.
Baseline leadership.
Yeah, baseline leadership, critical thinking, just the basics.
Because the bones provide the necessary rigidity. Without a solid bone, a finger cannot support any weight. I mean, regardless of how massive the muscle attached to it is.
You could have the biggest bicep in the world, but if your finger bone is soft,
you're falling. So if we map this to an enterprise, your core skills are your structural integrity.
Okay, that makes sense.
If you have a team that just cannot communicate clearly, or a management structure that lacks basic project oversight, the entire organization is compromised from the inside out.
It has no rigidity.
None. It can't withstand any external market pressures.
Okay, so then we add the muscle and the tendons. And the sources specifically highlight the tendons, fléchisseurs, the flexor tendons.
Right.
So the bones are the basic project management. The tendons are the specialized high-impact expertise.
Exactly. This is your elite software developer.
Your master negotiator.
Your brilliant creative director. This is the dynamic force that actually generates the movement.
But here is the biological catch. And this is where I think most corporate structures get it totally wrong. A tendon does not act independently.
It can't.
Right. A tendon is a transmitter of force. It literally connects the muscle to the bone.
Yep.
So if you only have the bone and the tendon and you try to bend your finger, the tendon will simply pull away from the bone in a straight line.
It needs a mechanism to harness that.
It needs a mechanism to direct the force.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the third element, the pulleys.
The system.
The system. Conexa defines these as the agile working methods, the advanced digital tools, and the optimized processes that guide the talent.
To visualize this, I mean, just look at your own hand right now.
Okay, looking at my hand.
The muscles that actually close your fingers are located way down in your forearm.
Right, which feels weird to think about.
It is weird. They pull on these long tendons that run all the way up through your wrist and into your fingers. Now, to prevent those tendons from just popping out and stretching your skin like a tent when you bend a joint.
Ew, okay. Gross, but I get it.
You have this series of fibrous bands. Those are the pulleys. They strap the tendon tight against the bone.
Oh, I see.
They ensure that when the muscle contracts in your arm, the finger actually bends. It directs the force.
So in a corporate ecosystem, your star talent, that's the tendon, needs processes and tools to ensure their raw energy actually bends the organization toward its strategic goal.
Precisely. Without the pulley, the talent is just pulling against nothing.
Wait, let me test this analogy with a real-world scenario, because I see this all the time. Think about the massive tech startup boom over the last decade.
Oh, yeah. Perfect example.
Right. You see these companies raise like $100 million in venture capital, and they go out and hire the absolute most expensive visionary talent on the planet.
They build a massive tendon.
The huge tendon.
Yeah.
But they actively avoid corporate processes because they don't want to be bogged down by, red tape.
Right. They want to stay agile, but they don't actually have a system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So are you saying that by ignoring the pulleys, the actual systems, that visionary talent is essentially useless?
I mean, it's actually worse than useless. It becomes actively destructive.
Destructive. How?
When a startup has this incredibly powerful flexor tendon, a team of brilliant engineers working furiously, but they lack the basic bones of good management and the pulleys of clear workflows, what happens?
Chaos.
Pure chaos. The energy does not propel the company upward. The talent is pulling with massive force, but there's nothing guiding it.
So everyone is just working in silos, pulling in different directions.
Exactly. The energy is entirely wasted, and the structural integrity of the company begins to literally warp under the strain.
That paints such a vivid picture of why these seemingly invincible unicorn companies just suddenly collapse overnight.
They've ripped themselves apart.
And it leads us right into one of the most intense parts of Dr. Delong's analysis. Because we know what a healthy grip looks like now, but what happens when the market shifts, the pressure spikes, and the system just can't handle it?
You experience what climbers call the clack.
Ugh, just hearing that word makes me wince. It's visceral! It really is. The source material describes the physical sound of a pulley rupture in climbing. A climber goes for a dynamic move, they leap for a hold, they put all their weight on one single finger, and suddenly there is a loud, audible pop.
Yep, the clack.
The pulley snaps. It's the ultimate biological trauma.
Biomechanically, it is a catastrophic failure. A structure yields under a mechanical stress that it was entirely unprepared to absorb.
Right.
And Conexa translates this directly to the sudden traumatic breakdown of an organization.
How so?
Think about the forces pulling on a company. They are immense. You have fluctuating global markets, the sudden integration of generative AI.
Oh, everyone's scrambling to figure out AI right now.
Exactly. Unpredictable shifts in client demands. All of these external forces act like a bowstring, just pulling backward on the organization.
And if the internal pulleys, the processes, the software, the communication protocols, if those aren't continuously reinforced through training, they simply tear.
Exactly. Now, you might not hear an audible clack in the boardroom.
Though sometimes you might hear some yelling.
True. But the trauma is identical. A key department suddenly implodes right in the middle of a vital product launch.
Yeah.
Your senior engineering team just walks out. Or a major client account is completely mismanaged because the communication protocol failed.
That is a pulley rupture.
That is the clack.
The document uses a really specific medical term here that I found fascinating. They call it bowstringing, or in French, la perte d'efficacité, loss of efficiency.
Yes.
So if the pulley snaps, the tendon pulls away from the bone, and it literally looks like the string of a bow.
But how does that physical phenomenon explain what happens in an office?
So when a pulley snaps and the tendon bowstrings, you lose all your mechanical advantage.
Okay.
The muscle is still firing, right?
Yeah.
Tendon is still pulling, but the finger cannot bend effectively.
So the effort is there, but the result isn't.
Exactly. The energy of the talent just dissipates into the void. And Dr. Delong and Conexa Formation describe the aftermath of this as corporate edema and hematoma.
Swelling and bruising.
Swelling and bruising. What does corporate swelling actually look like?
It looks like patent, highly visible disorganization. It's when a task that used to take a team 2 days suddenly takes 3 weeks.
Oh, and it involves like 12 different meetings?
Yes. The endless meetings, that is corporate swelling. It is extreme operational stress. Because the mechanical advantage is gone, the team is forced to expend triple the energy just to maintain their previous baseline of output.
Just to tread water.
Right. The swelling is all those bloated, inefficient processes that try to compensate for the broken system.
Think about your own workplace for a second. If you, listening to this, have ever felt like you are working twice as hard to get half as much done,
Yeah.
you have experienced bowstringing.
You are living it.
And honestly, this provides such a profound explanation for the massive wave of quiet quitting and collective burnout we've seen recently.
It really redefines the entire problem, because when a CEO looks at a burned out team or declining productivity, the instinct is almost always to blame the tendon.
To blame the talent.
Right. They think, my people have lost their drive. They aren't ambitious anymore. We need to motivate them, or we just need to push them harder.
But the tendon is perfectly fine. The talent, the ambition, the raw energy of the employee is still right there.
Exactly. The employee didn't suddenly become lazy. The organizational pulley snapped. The workflow broke down, or the software they are forced to use is completely obsolete, or the management communication is so fractured that their efforts just no longer move the needle.
They are burning thousands of calories of mental energy just trying to hold onto the wall.
And the energy is dissipating into the void. And when leadership responds to that by demanding more brute force from a team that has a broken pulley, they aren't managing. They are causing profound psychological and structural trauma.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
But it makes so much sense. Okay, let's pivot slightly, because a mountain obviously is not flat.
Far from it.
Right. A climber doesn't just hang statically. They have to move, stretch, and adapt to totally unexpected angles. If rigid stress snaps a pulley, how does an organization give into the system so it can absorb sudden market shocks without tearing?
This is where Conexa moves the focus away from the structural cables, the tendons and pulleys, and starts looking at the articulation, the joints.
Okay.
A healthy joint is defined by its ability to allow frictionless movement. In climbing, it is fluid joint movement that ultimately saves your muscles.
Like flexibility.
Yeah. If you watch a beginner climb, they are incredibly rigid. They try to muscle their way up, their arms are shaking, they're locking off every single move.
They're essentially fighting the wall.
Precisely. They're fighting gravity, they're fighting the rock. But an expert climber flows. Their joints absorb the shifts in weight, they articulate smoothly.
It looks effortless.
It does. And in a business context, Connexa defines this articulation as strategic flexibility.
Okay.
It is the fluidity of movement between different departments.
So how easily can the marketing team pivot when the product team delays a release?
Exactly.
Or how smoothly does human resources integrate with frontline operations?
And if the articulation between those departments is rigid, the organization will injure itself the moment the market demands a change in direction.
Give me an example of that.
Let's say a major competitor releases a highly disruptive new product,
Go.
and your sales team needs a completely new pitch overnight to counter it. If the joint connecting sales to market research is stiff, bureaucratic, full of friction...
Like they have to put in a request that takes 2 weeks to approve.
Exactly. Then the company will metaphorically tear a muscle trying to pivot. They just can't move fast enough.
So how do you fix that stiffness? The sources argue that continuous training is the cartilage that protects the corporate structure.
Yes.
It keeps these joints lubricated. And they use this brilliant concept from climbing to illustrate this. The idea of reading the rock.
I love this concept. A master climber doesn't just blindly grab the next hold. They feel the texture of the stone.
They look at the grain.
They gauge the humidity in the air. They assess the incline and the angle of the sun and the shadows. They are constantly processing tactile feedback from their environment to adjust their grip.
So translated to business, that is reading your market data and your internal team feedback.
Exactly.
You are constantly balancing the pressure. If you apply too much pressure, you fatigue the team and burn out. If you apply too little, you lose your grip on the market and fall.
And this brings us to one of the most innovative concepts in the Connexa formation framework. We've talked about human skills as the structural anatomy, but how do they view technology?
Right.
They introduce this concept of mental chalk, or the technological pulley.
I found this absolutely fascinating because anyone who has ever watched a climbing documentary, you see the little bag of white chalk strapped to the climber's waist, and they constantly dip their hands in it to dry their sweat. Connexa equates the deployment of digital tools and artificial intelligence to this chalk.
It is a really critical distinction to make, because think about it. What does chalk not do?
It doesn't pull you up the mountain.
Right. It doesn't magically create brute force in your forearms. AI does not do the climbing for your company.
That is such a relief to hear, honestly, given all the panic about AI replacing human intelligence. Like, AI isn't the climber, it's just drying off the sweat.
That is the perfect way to look at it. Artificial intelligence and advanced digital tools, they optimize the transfer of your human know-how.
Okay.
They dry up the sweat of repetitive, low-value tasks.
Like endless data entry.
Exactly. They reduce friction in the system, and they improve your cognitive adhesion to the complex problem you're actually trying to solve.
So they just let you hold on better.
Right. They reduce the mental load so that your human tendon can fire efficiently.
So if an organization is suffering from a lack of chalk, or rigid joints, or a snapped pulley, how do they actually fix it?
Because it is a pathology, right?
Exactly. Dr. Delong is very clear. Immobility in business is a pathology. It is a disease state. And to cure it, the Connexa team prescribes a specific methodology they call the organizational strap.
Now, in sports medicine, a strap is athletic tape used to externally support a damaged or vulnerable joint.
Right, like taping a sprained ankle.
Exactly. The Connexa organizational strap is a 4-step intervention designed to rehabilitate an inefficient company.
Let's break down how these steps actually work in practice, because they are deceptively simple on paper.
Very true.
Step 1 is the diagnostic.
Yeah.
You have to identify the specific friction points where the company's forcing unnecessarily.
And this is often the hardest step, honestly, because it requires leadership to check their ego at the door.
Oh, yeah, nobody wants to admit their systems are broken.
Right. You have to look at your operations and ask highly uncomfortable questions, like, why is the accounting department always working until 8 p.m.?
The instinct is to just say, well, because we have so many clients, we're doing great.
Exactly. But the diagnostic step demands you look closer. Is it actually client volume, or is it because a legacy software system requires them to manually enter the exact same data 3 times?
Oof, I've lived that.
Most people have. They are using brute force instead of technique. You have to diagnose the friction before you can prescribe the chalk.
Which leads right into step 2, skill development. Once you've found the friction, you don't just tell them to work differently. You train the teams to anchor their efforts.
Right.
You teach them the specific skills. Maybe it's a new AI protocol. Maybe it's advanced conflict resolution that they're currently missing.
But skill development in a vacuum is useless. Which brings us to step 3, fluidification.
Fluidification.
This is where so many corporate training programs just totally fail. They send an employee to a seminar, teach them a new skill, but they don't change the workflow to actually accommodate it.
So they go back to their desk and nothing changes.
Nothing changes. Fluidification is the active optimization of workflows to create that healthy organizational joint. It's taking the new skill and ensuring it bridges the gap between departments, actively suppressing the friction you diagnosed in step 1.
And then we reach step 4, which might honestly be my favorite, execution optimization. And the underlying principle here is teaching strategic application. Or, to put it bluntly, don't try to do everything.
Yes. It brings us full circle to the concept of precise placement over raw strength.
Right.
An amateur climber looks at a wall and tries to grab every single rock within arm's reach.
Just flailing.
Flailing, expending massive amounts of energy testing bad holds. But an expert climber, they will bypass 3 or 4 perfectly adequate rocks to find the one perfect grip that allows them to rest their weight.
Wow.
Execution optimization is training an organization to say no to 10 perfectly decent ideas so they can conserve their energy and execute one great idea flawlessly.
That is so counterintuitive to the corporate mindset of chase every lead.
But it's essential for survival.
So we've been looking at this from a very macro perspective. The company's bones, its joints, its strategy. But what about the person who is actually on the wall?
The individual.
Right. Let's zoom into the daily lived experience of you, the listener, navigating this environment.
The metaphor becomes deeply, deeply personal here, because from the perspective of the individual worker, the company itself, its hierarchies, its demands, its projects, that is the rock face.
And your personal expertise, your unique talents and cognitive abilities, those are your fingers.
Exactly. And every single day you are trying to climb. The presentation highlights a series of daily risks that workers face, and the first one is overinvesting.
Gripping the wall too hard out of a fear of falling.
We see this everywhere. It is the employee who triple checks every single email before hitting send.
Oh, I've been there.
It is the manager who micromanages their team because they are terrified of a mistake reflecting poorly on them. They are overgripping.
And biologically, what happens when you overgrip?
Biomechanically, overgripping accelerates fatigue exponentially. If you grip the rock with 100% of your strength when the hold only requires 40% to keep you stable, you are going to burn out long before you reach the top.
Another massive risk they identify is cognitive saturation, which leads to total immobility.
Yes. Paralyze.
You are hanging on the wall, completely paralyzed by an overwhelming flow of information or poorly designed contradictory processes, and you are just unable to find the next hold.
They also point out the danger of what they call bad attack angles on processes.
What does that mean?
In climbing, if you grab a hold from the wrong angle, you put unnatural torque on your wrist and your elbow. It hurts. In a company, this is trying to solve a modern problem with an outdated tool. You are forcing your cognitive wrist into a painful, unnatural position just to get the job done.
And the final risk they mentioned hits incredibly close to home for a lot of people, I think. The total absence of resting points in the workflow.
This is a biological imperative. I mean, a climber cannot ascend indefinitely.
Right. Gravity always wins eventually.
They must find a ledge or a deep hold where they can shake out their arms, let the lactic acid flush out, and allow the blood to return to their muscles.
They call it a resting hold.
Right. If a company designs its quarterly workflow as a continuous, relentless sprint without built-in resting points, the workers will simply fall off the wall. The biology demands recovery.
So if a worker finds themselves on a relentless wall like that, what is the personal solution? Connexa suggests that developing diverse secondary skills acts as an H-strap.
Right. An H-strap is a very specific taping technique used by climbers.
Okay.
When a pulley in the finger is damaged or vulnerable, they take rigid athletic tape and wrap it around the base and the middle of the finger, crossing over the joint to form an H shape.
So it externally reinforces the internal pulley.
Exactly. Now, for a professional today, acquiring a new, diverse skill acts as that tape.
Give me a tangible example of that.
Let's say you are a brilliant copywriter. That is your primary tendon, your main skill. But the demands of your job are increasing. You know, they want more output, and you are starting to strain.
You're close to a clack.
Exactly. So learning how to use a generative AI tool to help outline your work, or taking a course on basic data analytics to understand what copy performs best, that acts as an H-strap.
It supports your core expertise.
Right. It takes the pressure off your primary tendon, allowing you to transform a daily constraint into a performance lever.
However, we really need to address a critical reality about adaptation here. Because you cannot just slap an H-strap of new skills onto a team and expect miracles overnight.
Oh, definitely not.
And this brings us to one of the most vital, honestly sobering pieces of data in the entire document. The timeline of adaptation.
So important.
I'm so glad we were talking about this because corporate timelines are notoriously disconnected from reality.
They want everything yesterday.
Right. But the sources detail exactly how long true adaptation takes, broken down into 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 is 1 to 4 weeks.
So in the first month of implementing a new process or skill, you see what we call quick wins.
The honeymoon phase.
Basically, the absolute basics are mastered. There is often this overwhelming, exciting impression of rapid efficiency. The team feels like they're just flying up the wall.
But Kenexa warns that this is essentially an illusion of permanence, which leads to phase 2, 2 to 12 months.
This is the danger zone.
Why?
Because during these 10 months, the anchoring of the new skills begins, but achieving deeper integration into existing stubborn organizational habits is incredibly difficult.
Old habits die hard.
Exactly. The new tools are being used, yes, but the foundational vulnerabilities remain. If the market pressure suddenly spikes during this window, the team will almost inevitably panic and default back to their old, inefficient habits.
Oh, because the new pulley hasn't fully fused with the bone yet.
Precisely. It's still fragile.
Which means true change requires phase 3, 12 to 24 months.
Yep.
Only after 1 to 2 full years is the adaptation actually complete. The skills are deeply biologically integrated into the culture and the core processes of the company.
This raises a massive red flag regarding modern corporate expectations. Dr. Delong highlights a universal principle here. Organizational structure and collective habits always take significantly longer to adapt than individual strength.
Okay, wait. Unpack that for me.
You can send an individual employee to a workshop and they will learn a new software in a week. Their individual strength increases quickly.
Right.
But it will take the company a minimum of a year, often 2, to actually reorganize its entire workflow around that software efficiently.
So let's play this out in a real-world scenario. A CEO goes to a big tech summit.
Happens every day.
Right. They hear a keynote about a revolutionary new AI platform. They get hyped. They come back to the office on Monday, purchase the enterprise license for everyone, and demand that the entire company integrate it and double their output in the next 3 months.
A classic maneuver.
Based on the biomechanics we've just spent this time unpacking, what has that CEO actually done?
They have essentially mandated a systemic pulley rupture. They are applying maximum mechanical stress to a structural system that is only in phase 1 of adaptation.
They haven't let the tissue heal.
Exactly. They haven't allowed the biological tissue of the company, the complex web of human habits and processes, to catch up to the new stress load.
So what happens?
The system will snap, the energy will dissipate, and the initiative will fail spectacularly.
It is a profound warning against the impatience of modern leadership. And to really cement this analysis, let's look at the final synthesis numbers provided in the source document.
These numbers are incredible.
They offer some hard physical data on finger biomechanics that perfectly illustrates the hidden costs of poor management. Let's talk about the A2 pulley.
Okay, the A2 pulley. It's located at the base of the finger, closest to the palm.
Right.
It is one of the most critical load-bearing structures in the hand. The research shows that the A2 pulley receives 3 to 4 times the amount of force that is actually applied to the very tip of the finger.
Stop and think about the physics of that force multiplier for a second. If you applied 10 pounds of pressure to your fingertip, the tiny band of tissue at the base of your finger is fighting against 30 to 40 pounds of outward force.
Just trying to keep the tendon from ripping through the skin.
If we map that multiplier effect onto a corporate structure, the implications are just staggering.
Yeah.
The tip of the finger is your front line.
Yes.
It's your customer service rep dealing with an unhappy client. It's your junior salesperson trying to close a difficult deal. If that frontline worker faces an unexpected problem, say, a product defect, they pull on the internal systems to fix it.
And the internal systems, the HR department, the IT support, the mid-level managers who act as the A2 pulleys at the base of the organization, they must bear that load.
And it's not a one-to-one transfer.
Not at all. Because of internal friction, communication lags, and procedural red tape, the pressure on your internal support systems is 3 to 4 times greater than the original pressure on the frontline worker.
So if your frontline is stressed by a 10% drop in sales?
Your internal management structures are bearing a load that feels like a 40% crisis.
Oh my God.
Right. If those internal pulleys aren't reinforced, the inside of the company collapses long before the front line ever falls.
But the sources don't leave us in a state of, impending doom. They offer a second statistic that I think is honestly the most hopeful part of this entire deep dive.
I agree.
When a climber suffers a pulley rupture, 80 to 90% of those injuries are treated conservatively.
Yes. They are treated with cicatrisation dirigée, which translates to directed healing.
Directed healing.
They are treated with strategic rest, targeted strapping, and progressive rehabilitation. They are rarely treated with surgery.
Let's translate that into the boardroom. What is surgery in a corporate context?
Surgery is invasive, it's highly disruptive, and it
Right.
leaves permanent structural scars.
So, like, massive layoffs.
Exactly. In a company, surgery is bringing in high-priced external consultants to ruthlessly restructure the entire org chart. It is mass layoffs. It is firing an entire department because they missed a target.
What Dr. Delong and Connects Formation are arguing is that 80 to 90% of the time, you do not need to fire your team when things break down.
Your talent, the flexor tendon, is likely fine. They haven't lost their edge.
What you need is directed healing.
You need to strap them. You support the injured team by diagnosing the friction and providing new targeted skills.
You give them the H-strap.
Right. You introduce adapted, manageable workloads that allow them to build up dense, resilient professional tissue over time. You do not cut the muscle, you rehabilitate the joint.
That is a profound shift from a culture of disposable talent to a culture of structural resilience.
You have to build organizational calluses, or what they call corn, to transform heavy, painful lows into enduring new strength.
So, as we wrap up this massive deep dive into the insights of Dr. Christophe Delong and Connects Formation, let's just pull all of these threads together.
Yeah, let's recap.
Success, whether you are 500 feet up a granite cliff or sitting in a C-suite, is never about applying blind brute force. Performance is born from balance. It is the optimal transfer of load, supported by a solid internal structure of core skills. It's utilizing fluid movement between departments.
And above all, respecting the long biological timeline of progressive adaptation. It demands a fundamental, almost clinical respect for the structure of your organization.
You cannot force greatness through sheer willpower.
You must meticulously build the capacity to support it.
We really want you to take a moment today to evaluate your own daily climb. Look at your team. Look at your own workflows. Are you gripping the wall too hard out of fear?
Ask yourself if your department is suffering from the quiet exhaustion of bowstringing, where everyone is burning out but nothing is actually moving forward.
Are you relying on the myth of the grind? Or are you actively building your pulleys and your cartilage?
And as you reflect on how you manage your own energy and the structure of your team, consider this final provocative thought to extend the Connexa metaphor just one step further.
Okay, lay it on me.
We have spent this entire deep dive discussing how to train your muscles, lubricate your joints, and build your technological pulleys to climb the specific rock face of your current industry.
Right.
But what happens to the perfectly adapted, meticulously trained climber when a sudden, violent earthquake fundamentally changes the very shape of the mountain overnight? How do you strap up for a route that no one has ever mapped before?
Wow. Something to mull over as you chalk up and face whatever wall is waiting for you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.